But for anyone who's just like, I don't even know where to start, like this breakdown that we're showing here is how you can, start looking at deals right away and then start underwriting them to refine your skills and get better and better.
Tie in all of those things we talked about into your buy box. What kind of storage facility asset you're wanting, potential purchase price that you're looking for, are you looking for stabilized? Are you looking for value add? Like, what exactly are you looking for when it comes to self-storage? Do your competitor analysis, look at the overall competition in that market, and then really niche down into your like competitors.
You're just trying to figure out what is the play here? What would the business plan be? If all of a sudden you were in charge of running this, what would you need to do in order to make it the best possible facility it could be?
All right, everybody, today's episode is absolutely incredible because we're setting all of you guys up for success to go out and start finding storage deals, start going through opportunities, and giving you a step-by-step view of how George and myself would be looking at these listings as we're going on these different platforms and websites. I mean, where do we even start, right? Like, how do we even look at what facilities or what regions to potentially invest in or to underwrite or any of this stuff? And today we're giving you guys that framework.
If there's any episode to listen to, this is one I really recommend taking the time to pause and go through, because we give you guys, we're not just teaching you, we're giving you action steps to go so you can go out and do this yourself. So I think this is a great episode for you guys who are wanting to go out and find deals and actually start building up your pipeline and learning how to run through these deals quickly.
We talk about looking at different markets and we talk about looking at these storage opportunities and all this stuff, but what happens when you actually look at them? You're looking at all these different facilities and these opportunities that may or may not be in all these different areas around the country. They're different sizes, different prices. There's all these things going on, and it can be really difficult to figure out where to start.
It can be really overwhelming too. You just there's things that we talk about all day long, but if you're new coming in trying to learn and get into this industry, there's a lot of terminology or just processes that for those who are experienced may seem familiar with, but it's something that we want to help, level the playing field so that way new people coming in can get up to speed and start underwriting deals and finding opportunities as quick as possible.
Let's kick off with this. Like, what is an OM? It's an offering memorandum. These are the detailed, PDF files or presentations that sellers and brokers are putting together when they're taking a facility out to market. It's going to have a ton of different information in there. It's going to have some photos. It's going to have maybe some pro formas and some financials and some different things in there. I saw this big portfolio of OM that was like hundreds of pages. That's usually not the case, just recently. But even if they're a few pages long, it can be difficult, like you were saying, George, to be like, okay, like where do I even start with this thing?
Yeah, for sure. And the way to think of it is like if you've ever gone and looked at a house or something online on Zillow or Redfin, like you have a description of the home with images and details about it and everything like that. Like an OM is the commercial real estate or self-storage version of that. You go online, you find a facility publicly listed for sale, and the offering memorandum is the PDF or documentation that has all of the details that you need to get an overall look at the facility in a timely manner. So you have things like your demographics, the purchase price, how much they are listing it for, photos of the facility, income, like Connor said, pro forma, any other things that you might need to know, like CapEx or current occupancy, things that we'll dive into a little later as well too. But it's really your snapshot of being able to look at a facility without having all of the financials and all of the rent rolls, things like that, to do a full detailed underwriting, but enough to know on a high level if it's worth diving deeper into.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a really important point as well, because so often we feel like we need more information or even like all of the information on the front end to even be able to make a decision. And that's not how this process works. If you have a scenario where that happens, great, but 90+% of the time, you're going to be just looking at these opportunities from a high level to begin with. Again, we're looking at price and square footage and all these different things at a high level. And then that's what the whole process of your due diligence is to go in and actually confirm all of these, assumptions and estimates and all these different things to gather the real data that's going to help refine underwriting, maybe even, if something was misrepresented, maybe it's going back and saying, hey, to the seller and saying, hey, like there's some discrepancies here. We're going to have to, fix 10 of these units because they're not even rentable. So instead of 100 units the facility has for rent right now, it's like there's really only 90 because 10 of them are totally unusable. So we're going to have to come off the asking price, in whatever equal amount it's going to take to fix and rectify those things. So to kick off, man, one of the things that we've talked about recently that we've run into is it's like where do I even start? Like where do I even get an OM from a broker, or how do I even look at these opportunities? And I'm going to tell you right now, Google is your friend. Go on Google and Google self-storage facilities for sale in whatever city, state, whatever you want to look in. We're going to look at some of these today with some different platforms. Quick disclaimer and caveat. We're going to talk about process today. We're not going to talk, is this a good deal? Is it not? We're just going to talk through this and what our process is. And this is obviously not us telling you like, hey, yeah, these are great deals or they're not great deals, whatever. That's obviously up to every single individual to go and decide for themselves. But disclaimer aside, the process that, so many people out there are using, they're going out to self-storage brokerage firms. Right now, we're looking at, we've got some listings that we've pulled up and we're looking on Franklin Street. Franklin Street has a commercial real estate. They don't just do self-storage. They do a ton of commercial real estate sales and transactions, even more so outside of that. I think they even do other things as well, like leasing and management, insurance, all kinds of stuff. So big firm, a lot of great people there, but they do have a specific arm of Franklin Street that focuses on self-storage. So we came on their website and they've got a plethora of facilities listed for sale. We're talking anywhere between $1 million to $5 million. $2 million. There's all kinds of big, small, class A down to your class C's and B's, like everything in between. We've got another firm pulled up that we're looking at, Marcus and Millichap, another fantastic place to look for deals and opportunities. They're another firm that's got a specific arm in the commercial real estate world for self-storage. And the tried and true, we've also got Crexy that we've pulled up, and we've got all these different deals that have been posted in here. And you might see a lot of the same deals too. Like you might see a lot of these same deals on brokerage firms' websites that are also posted on Crexy and these other platforms, because they're kind of aggregate that, those listings to this one hub in some instances. So I wouldn't use just one or the other. I would be checking and looking, if I was trying to find some self-storage deals, I'd be looking at all the platforms, looking for properties, and also obviously connecting directly with the brokers, because that's actually another question that we've gotten. Just recently, it's like, man, let's say I want to invest in Texas and Colorado and Utah. Like, how do I find brokers in those areas? Going to platforms like this and filtering your searches to, I've got a filter right here on Franklin Street's website. I can pick exactly what states I want to go and invest in right now, or that I want to look at. So you can look at what listings are live in any of those states and see who the listing broker is. And they've got like a laundry list of folks. Let's just pull up one deal here real quick and show. If you're not watching on YouTube right now, this is a great visual for you guys to check out later. If you're just listening to the podcast, just got the audio rolling, this will still be a hugely valuable episode, but YouTube will be great because you'll be able to look at some of these references.
Something to keep in mind too, as Connor's diving into this, is that like this is meant to be the start of your process of finding deals. It's not the whole package. There's more about building these broker relationships, off-market deals, things like this. But for anyone who's just like, I don't even know where to start, like this breakdown that we're showing here is how you can, start looking at deals right away and then start underwriting them to refine your skills and get better and better.
Hey, podcast listeners. As you know, self-storage, we give away all our information for free. It's my open playbook, and I share with you guys every single week what we're seeing and what we're doing. But what a lot of people don't know is that we have even more resources available. So you may not know, but I wrote a book that's hard to even call this a book. This is a manual. We're talking 400 plus pages. which include all sorts of information about how we have been in the self-storage industry. That's everything from how we got our first deals, to scaling, to buying deals in today's market, what's changed and what remains the same. This is an up-to-date book that shows you how the market has changed and how you can win today. This isn't simple, this is how you buy a deal. No, this goes into everything, including how you scale and create a self-storage business. You can get a physical copy, an ebook, or the audiobook, plus free access to bonus content at the end of each chapter. You can get it today. It's available on Amazon and other platforms in which you can follow the link.
So we've got a listing pulled up on Franklin Street's website, and this one looks like it's in Massachusetts. And you come here and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different individuals with Franklin Street. Frank and David, both those guys, awesome dudes over there. Well, we know them well, but they've got 3 other guys listed here that you can literally call and connect with like right now. Their email and their phone number is right there. I mean, a key piece to this, like getting started, is really understanding what kind of a facility that, fits your buy box. We talk about buy box quite a bit. Getting that buy box figured out and being able to communicate to these brokers that we're looking at here on this website is a really, really perfect first step as well when you're first getting started and building those broker relationships, because then they know exactly what you're looking for. You want to be specific. You want to talk about, how much you're willing to, buy the facility, how much you're willing to invest, your square footage, like what kind of unit types that you're looking for. Do you want just all boat and RV? Do you want some temperature control? Does it matter to you? Is it traditional drive up? And like, what is your business plan too? Like, your specialty is, value add with, potential to expand, and the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, just all these things that Connor's talking on with your buy box and the different parameters, they're all filters. And like just looking at this screen, I see a drive up facility with dirt drive aisles. Like Connor said, it's listed at almost $10 million, 60,000 square feet. Like to someone, they're gonna look at that and be like, awesome, this is exactly what I'm looking for. It's in my part of the country. Like I want to dive deeper into this, reach out and get more information. To someone else, they're gonna be like, I want a facility with paved drive aisles, or maybe I want climate control. I want something that's in a more urban city-like area. I don't even need to look any further on this. I'm going to move on. And like, that's how you should be looking at these, is knowing what you're looking for and what you're not looking for within reason. You won't always find something that's exactly every single piece that you want. And then knowing like, okay, great, I'm going to move forward or not. The one thing I would say to not get too hung up on is the price itself, because
Yes.
oftentimes facilities don't trade or sell for the price that they're listed at. So if you're just getting started, I would encourage you to look at the quality of the facility. And it's not to say that there's opportunity in all of them, but you might not want something that has a heavy value add from like a physical standpoint where you need to go in and fix a bunch of doors, things like that. You want to just focus on the management and operations. Or if you're someone who has a ton of construction experience, you might be totally down to do the renovation piece. So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just having clarity on what you're looking for. So that way you don't then go to every single one of these listings and spend an hour plus on each one trying to get all the information. Like you're trying to do this efficiently. We're all busy. You guys are entrepreneurs, business owners. Like you're trying to do this efficiently, but still with the intent of, getting into this industry.
The thing that I would encourage you guys to do when you're first starting out, this is another thing, is with remote operations, with all the technology that we have. I mean, we can really invest anywhere in the United States. And it's like, man, like, where do I even start? Because if I can run a facility, this one's all the way across the country from me. Like, if I can run this remotely, like, should I look at it? Should I even do it? And what we like to encourage folks to do is invest in the places that you know well first. So if you have friends or family in these areas, if you've lived in those areas before, or if you're currently living in those areas, like just start with the places that you're familiar with and that you know well. So let's just go through this and think out loud here, George, as we look at this deal on Franklin Street's website, or this opportunity. I mean, the first thing you'd mentioned, not being paved. great observation there. I mean, let's look at through some of the photos. I mean, it looks like, we've got this, I'm looking at the metal building construction. It looks like we might have some replaced roof panels. So maybe there's been some roofing things going on here and there. I would want to verify. Looks like we've got some potentially decent security. We've got some, 6 foot or so fencing. Looks like manual gates that have to be locked and unlocked potentially. I don't see like a motorized gate operator here. So I'm thinking, hey, like that'd be a simple value add, is just adding an automatic gate. I'm also looking at things like lighting and security. Are there security cameras? Is there lighting? Um, does it look and feel safe? There's studies that have been done in the storage industry that outline that security is one of the most top rated buying decision makers for tenants. It might have even been paved, maybe asphalt at some point, but it looks like it might be just an older facility. So maybe you'd be looking at redoing some asphalt, whether it's doing a reseal or it's like going in and totally removing some of the old asphalt and repaving. Could be just some repairs. There's all kinds of different directions you can go with these things, but I would just be walking through and looking at the facility, taking these notes and understanding what it would look like if I were to start diving into this. Those are the bids and the proposals I'd want to get, right? Like if it starts checking some other boxes, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to get a proposal for this gate, and I'm going to get a proposal for the asphalt, and I'm going to have a roofing company come and just look at the roof to make sure things are good. And if there's any recommended repairs, I'm going to price those out. So those are some of the thoughts just thinking out loud here, George. I mean, what are some things going through your head?
Yeah, I think those are all good points. When I look to as we keep going through these images, I'm like, okay, I just saw those yellow doors. Like maybe those are portable units there. So maybe those were aren't fixed to the ground. And again, like we're just looking at images. Like I could be totally wrong. And then like looking at that overhead, I'm like, okay, is there room for expansion? Those are types of things that wanting to verify and see, because when you take all of these things into consideration, you're really like, okay, what is my business plan, or what would my business plan be for this? And every facility has a business plan of what you would do to make it worth more. And then it's just a matter of, can you execute on that at the right price? And is it worth it? So yeah, when I look at this, like this is very different than if you took something that was, 20 units but 5 acres of land and is a huge expansion type play. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. It's just like what opportunity upside can you see, and what can you get it at a price that makes sense to you?
Yep. No, exactly. And as we're going through these photos, we got another great aerial photo. We've got solar panels on top of these units. How is that impacting the utilities? Is there any kind of like outstanding payments that need to be done on this install? Like, has it been all paid for? Is it not? Like, is there any issues with transferring, like any kind of warranties that might exist for some of these things? Because I'm assuming these panels are, I'm just making an assumption here, but I think it's probably pretty accurate that the buildings are far older than the solar panels.
Right.
Just from the looks of things. I mean, to your point, George, these definitely look like mobile units that they had thrown out there to expand, which could potentially be a great sign, because maybe they leased up all these other units and they're like, hey, we want to expand a few extra units without the total cost of what a development would look like. So let's just throw out some of these mobile units. And what we mean by mobile units is they're non-structural. You can literally go out, they build them on site, and they just set them on the ground. They're not, it's kind of like the difference between a normal home built on a foundation and like a manufactured home, if that makes any sense. And great point on the expansion potential, because looking at this, I think there's some extra property here next to those mobile units that might be included in this sale. Again, would have to verify, but if you could add either more mobile units, if occupancy and demand is doing really well, and rates are doing well, like maybe you're looking to expanding as soon as you can once you get in. The other thing I saw, they've got a porta potty that's out there at the facility. Even if this thing, like prime example, super simple little value add. I mean, how much do you think they're spending on this little porta potty every month? Even if it was 50 or $100 to have this thing on the property and getting serviced every month, that 50 or $100 that you could save adds a ton of value back to your facility if you don't have that added cost monthly and annually. So that's something that I would immediately remove from the facility if it were me coming in and doing this, because it's a totally unnecessary expense in my view and in my business model. This is my opinion. And if that's something that you want to provide to tenants, that's 100% up to you.
The other question it has for me is like, well, is there currently some type of construction going on there where that porta potty's there temporarily? Like, are they doing something nearby? And so it's like that would then prompt me to ask, like, well, what is happening? And so, like, I think all we've done so far is just scroll through images, and you can, like, without even going into the numbers, you can get an initial storyline of like, is this something I want to go further into? And so, I think that's really what you're trying to do is like quickly filter and get the story in place of that.
Something else that is always good to keep in mind is making sure that people have a way to access areas of the facility, whether you're running it remotely or you're running it with staff on site, because we've had facilities that are 100% fenced in, like the office, the parking, everything has a fence around it. And we've actually had to go into facilities and move fencing in ways that keeps the facility secure, that allows that 24/7 access to either an entry gate or to like the main parking and office area. Because when you've got an office like stuck behind a fence or even behind an automatic gate, how are people going to get in there and have like a place to go?
Right.
And, maybe they want to park their car for a second, scan a QR code so they can rent their unit or whatever that is. So just a little side note, little pro tip. I couldn't quite tell on this one, but something else as I'm looking at another aerial here is this facility is actually located on like next to a freeway, a highway, something like that, which can be great. The problem is there's been folks out there that are like, man, this has great visibility. It's right on the freeway, but the exit to get to this facility is like a half a mile down the road from where the actual facility is located.
Yeah.
So not to say that this isn't a bad location or a good location, but people have made the wrong assumption that this visibility along highways and freeways is amazing, only to find out that it really had no factor because, the exit and the access and all that stuff from the freeway to the facility wasn't great. Something else that I like to take note of is like, what does the landscaping look like when I'm looking at these? And stuff that stands out is, you've got a bunch of trees and shrubs around the property. And the shrubs that are along the front of the property as we're looking at it, I mean, those have to be maintained and kept up. So what does that cost look like? And is there a landscape company in place already? Is there not? Do I know of one personally that I might want to use, get some pricing from? And this would be like, I'd be getting pricing from folks like after I've like got my LOI and all this stuff already in and working on that, right?
Right.
I think there's a sequencing question in a lot of people's minds too, where like if I go in and I identify that it's checking pretty much all my boxes, I'm submitting an LOI at whatever value it came in for me at. And then I'm starting to dive into, more of these questions in depth, like getting proposals and coordinating with the seller and doing all this stuff. In the same time, I may or may not have that PSA signed and finalized yet. That could still be like running alongside me going off and getting proposals and trying to just move the deal along quicker. You don't have to wait until the PSA is done. You don't have to wait till this is done or that's done. Like if things are looking great to you, then you can start moving on things. But also, you don't want to be taking a ton of time up front and starting to like get the wheels spinning on stuff if you can't come to an agreement on the PSA either. So it's 100% up to you on how you want to handle these things, what the process should be for you, all of that. Next up, real quick, I kind of went on a side note there, but the trees around the facility, you're going to have a lot of debris. You're going to have a lot of tree debris, leaves, all this stuff coming down on the facility, on the roofs of the facility, all of that. You're going to need somebody to be making sure that your drive aisles are being kept clean, whether that's a street sweeping company coming through or that's a contractor or an employee coming through periodically and clearing out those drive aisles, getting debris off of the roofs of the storage facility units themselves. And something else I don't see, which is a plus, they don't have any gutters on these buildings either. which is amazing because gutters are so expensive to clean and maintain on a storage facility. Looks like they might have some on like little small portions of like an office building or something like that. But that's something else I'd be taking into account. Like if I had to, with all these trees around the building, I mean, gutters and those kinds of things would just be filling up with leaves nonstop. And what would it take for me to get those cleaned or to put covers over them or whatever so they don't have the leaves getting inside of them? Access looks pretty good for the most part, and it actually looks like almost like we've got two separate facilities here in two separate areas. And so this looks like, you've got one in one area of town and maybe this is like a satellite facility somewhere else. So the play here could be, it could be like a great little roll-up opportunity. Let's say these are 2 out of 4 facilities in that market. Single acquisition, you now control 50% of the market. That's pretty awesome.
Right. Well, I think too, going back to even like your example of the landscaping and like dealing with leaf cleanups and things like that, that cost might make you the best looking competitor in town. And so then it's like totally worth the expense because people are like, I can either go to this really nice, well taken care of facility or these other facilities up the street that aren't taken care of the way this looks, which then has an impact on how they view how their stuff is being stored. And so these things that of like, yes, it might be an added expense, but it's all relative to the market and what your competition is also looking like.
Other thing I'm noticing, there's piles of snow. Like, what does the snow plowing look like each year? And as far as like seasonality and those different things, snow plowing can get stupid expensive, and it's one of those that's really hard to predict. So I would want to see, over the last 3 years at least, what have they expense wise spent on snow plows? Like, what does that look like? And even more historical on that, if I could, just to get a better average. But no, cool facility here. I mean, next steps. What would be your process, George? I mean, obviously, to even know what we'd want to do with a facility like this as we're going through a listing or an OM, one of the really important pieces is going to be the competition, right?
Yeah.
So what's kind of some of the next steps that we might take after we're doing this initial walkthrough on photos?
Yeah, well, first off, even if you just scroll down, what else can we see on the page without clicking anywhere else? Like, so we can see, yeah, we can see a nice like bullet point of highlights here. So it's saying 500 units, 6 outdoor parking. It mentions the solar panels, and it's projected to add revenue. So that'd be something I want to know more about. Talking low market saturation of 7.5 square foot per capita. And so again, all this is without even clicking open into getting more details of this. We can see they're putting average household income of 78,000. So that lets you know like your customers' discretionary income. Can they afford to rent self-storage? Talking about the MSA it's located in, 70,000 residents. Opportunity to increase revenue through fee and tenant insurance or income streams. Like you're getting the broker's breakdown of how they're seeing what the value add opportunity could be here. And so now it's like, okay, before you go in and look into this yourself, you can have that context in mind to go in and verify, confirm, and then see some other things that with your own business hat on that you might identify as opportunities that aren't in the OM that other people aren't seeing as well too. And so you go to all these different sites, especially like we love Franklin Street because they do a great job putting this together. They know storage. And you can kind of see all of this before you get out your full 10 tab spreadsheet and start underwriting every single piece of the deal to just know like what is the market that I'm dealing with. Like seeing 7.5 square foot per capita, like that's great. Like that means it's not, in the high teens, 20 plus of a very oversupply markets. And then it also allows me to know like what other things do I want to know more. And so like before going into an OM, I don't see any in place NOI. I don't know if the population's growing or not, or at least I don't see it here. I don't know if there's any new developments coming in. So like those are the missing pieces that we want to be able to go out and find in our further quick look. And I think too, like this podcast is, we've been talking for like a half hour now. After you practice and do this, like this is happening within like 3 to 5 minutes of absorbing all this information. Like Connor and I have done this enough, and people who have, looked at storage, like you pull up this site, you look at it, 2 minutes go by, and you know whether or not it's worth clicking on or not. If this is your very first time, that's not going to be the case for you, and like don't expect it to be. That's okay. But it just allows you to see like filter, 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 and then like, is this worth going deeper or not?
And it is really important to get those repetitions in and of just looking at these opportunities and running through them, looking at all the different elements there, and you will get faster. It will feel like, you're wobbly at first, but hey, we've got a crawl, walk, run, right? Like that's the scenario. So like don't get discouraged.
One quick story is one of our long-term members, Charles. He's been on the podcast. You can go and listen to his story. He's bought in over 5 facilities at this point. But he explained that when he was getting started looking at deals, he would underwrite and look at on-market deals that he knew he would never buy. He's like, I would look at ones listed for $100,000 and then others that were listed for $20 million. And he's like, I just wanted to learn and see the different opportunities and what the difference was between a massive $20 million facility and these teeny ones that are just 50 units or not. And so like if that's where you're at, if you're like, I have no idea what my buy box is, I'm just trying to learn, then do that too. Like then it makes sense to look at all of these, because again, like you go through that same process of like looking at the image, looking at the highlights, seeing the size, the market, and you're just trying to figure out what is the play here? What would the business plan be? If all of a sudden you were in charge of running this, what would you need to do in order to make it the best possible facility it could be?
Something else too that's coming out is, like we talked about, not getting hung up on the listing price. Also, when you see these, whether it's these listings or OMs, don't get hung up on the information really in here at all, because this is giving you like an idea of where things might be, but you need to go and verify what stuff actually looks like. And so like the square feet per capita is kind of a good one where, this has a generally lower square feet per capita within the 5 mile area of these facilities, which sounds good. But I mean, depending on what demand actually looks like there, that maybe people are struggling with occupancy. Maybe there's some vacancies or there's some unit types that are struggling in that market. That kind of stuff is what you want to identify in your due diligence as you dive into these markets and do your competitor analysis, do your secret shopping, call those facilities, talk to them, see what they have available, see what they don't have available. It could be 7 square feet per capita, but there's a bunch of vacancy, or it could be like everybody's gangbusters. There's huge demand. Like we say over and over again, demand is absolutely king in any of these markets that you're looking at. So don't get hung up on the metrics. Use them as guides, use them as, starting points, reference points, but make sure that as you work through these opportunities that you're verifying all the information that you come across. So let's look at one of these other ones here so let's pull up Crexy just for fun.
Let's do one in a different part of the US. Let's do this Texas one.
Affordable boat and RV storage here in Texas. Let's check it out. So this is a perfect example of the different, going back to the buy box thing. If I was interested in boat and RV, covered parking, but I didn't specify that to a broker that I was like, hey, I'm interested in self-storage, this might not even come up on their radar. They might be like, oh yeah, they want, in their head, might be thinking like traditional self-storage and not, boat and RV storage.
Right.
It just adding that clarity sets you up for success and puts you in the path for those opportunities to come your way. This facility, man, some big units, really big units, both enclosed and big covered parking units. It looks to be a semi-new. Let's see, it was renovated. Here on this listing, it says year renovated. It was in 2025.
Yeah, built in 2023.
Yeah, let's run through. It looks like, okay, we've got square footage, 154,000. So it's a big property, 348 units. Occupancy is at 24%. So this is telling me right away there's massive value creation. But again, only if I'm confident that there's strong demand for boat and RV storage in these specific unit types that this facility has. Price per square foot, they've got it 34. 17 acres. Like this is a big property.
Few things right off the bat that I'm thinking are like, okay, this is a lease up play, like 24% occupied, built in 2023, that where it's so new, like probably not going to be a ton of capex. Doesn't mean there will be none, but it's like this isn't something built in the 70s or 80s where you're going to be like you shouldn't be worried about replacing a roof or something like that. But you're gonna have to come in and be ready with a marketing plan, be ready to go with having your PPC and running your Google ads because you need to fill this thing up quickly to get occupancy and your revenue up. It's like already the play of what would need to be done is like coming to mind really quickly and just, looking at bullet points and the images of this. And then yeah, 17 acres, like it's a lot of units and they're big units. So I'm already curious of like, is there more room for expansion? But again, like I don't know if there's enough demand to even get to that far yet because it's only 24% occupied. But could that land be something that could be parceled off if there's extra acreage that you don't need because there isn't enough demand to expand?
Exactly. And just looking through some of the information that they've got posted here, it looks like there's, I mean, obviously that lease up value add opportunity. It sounds like, I mean, they even say on this listing, existing ownership has limited experience in boat and RV storage, or sophisticated operator might be able to essentially increase occupancy through marketing, pricing, revenue management, all these things, because that's a question that would come to mind for me where I'm like, okay, if this thing was built in 2023 and it's only, 24% occupied, like what's driving that? Is it a management thing or is it a demand thing? Like maybe there's not a huge demand for the units in that market,
Right.
but I would have to confirm and verify that because I could very well find out all these other facilities are super full, highly occupied, rates are strong, all of those dynamics. And I've actually seen this in markets before and, where we've acquired facilities, with Cedar Creek with, that were, in the 50s, 60% occupied. And I remember like thinking back, looking at those deals initially, I was really hesitant. I was like, dude, I don't know about this. This like it's specifically one deal. It was about 50% occupied. After we acquired it, it was a little bit less, obviously, because we're doing delinquency management and all these things. So it dropped even more. But I was really hesitant because I was thinking, man, like everybody in the market, in this area seems to be full and occupied, but this one facility, like, is management like really that bad there to where the occupancy would be that big of a discrepancy? And like we verified demand in that market, and after we acquired it, it was one of the highest, if not the highest move-in facilities in lease-up stage that we had.
Wow.
It was just, I mean, we're move-ins on move-ins on move-ins, and was just setting move-in records for the week and for the month and all that stuff every time we'd look at it. And it was literally just because of a management issue. So for me, that was a lesson learned where I'm like, okay, dude, if I'm looking at a market ever and I'm confirming that demand is strong for those unit types, like I'm going, dude. Like I'm not gonna sit there and be super concerned about it. I'm not gonna, it's like clearly there's a management issue going on because all those unit types in the entire market are in high demand. They're full, they're occupied, rates are great. But this one facility, it's not a snowflake, it's not special. Like it should be occupied, but there's something on the management side stopping it from happening. So don't let low occupancies scare you away. Make sure that you confirm demand though.
That's really great context though, because then it's like as you gain more experience in this and you're looking at these properties, the other key variable to this is your own skill set. And being able to be like, hey, this is not, and we say this all the time, like the storage is not passive. You have to be ready to have an active management role or partner with someone who has an active management role in this. And so like in order to get from, if management is the issue, and demand is there, like Connor's saying, then you have to have a plan in place to do that. And so like just knowing Connor and his experience with Cedar, like the focus would have been on a marketing campaign, making sure people are answering the phones. There's a huge sales component to storage that I think is very often overlooked, and that people, you have to have sales skills to be able to close the deal to get tenants in, or to know if that if they're talking about a 5 by 10, can you actually convert them into a bigger unit knowing that they're going to stay longer? And so those things are happening in a dynamic manner, and speed and response time matters to all those things as well too. So simply just buying a facility and being like, well, demand's there, so it's going to fill up because it's in a good location. Like, that's not the way that we look at these opportunities or the way we teach.
And something else to consider when you're looking at boat and RV units like this, and they've got a pretty good diversification with the covered parking versus the enclosed, which is good to have. But something to keep in mind is the more concentrated unit types that you have and product offerings you have, the bigger swings that you could experience both up and especially down. So
Mm.
if for whatever reason, suddenly people just didn't need boat and RV storage, or some other player came in town and built a bunch of boat and RV and oversupplied the market, like there's not really any other way for you to go unless you start, developing new unit types. And that could be retrofitting an existing building or taking a building down. Like maybe you remove one of the covered parking areas and rebuild like some traditional storage, whatever that is. But it can be a benefit, but it also can pinhole you to only being able to provide a certain product type to the market. So, quick little tidbit there. Another thing, I'm looking at the satellite view of this boat and RV storage, and immediately I'm seeing some major residential development going on all over the place next to this thing. And I'm thinking, man, like this is in, it seems to be like a great location. There's a corridor, that it's almost in between one big city and another blossoming, growing residential area that's like, I mean, massive. We're talking so much residential here, which is great to see. But something else that you might check and see is, HOAs, all these things obviously have gotten really strict about, parking boats and RVs and how they want those things to look and feel. But are these new developments that they're putting in here coming with boat and RV garages already? Like, is that something that's being implemented in some of these? Because if it is, that might impact you a little bit from a demand standpoint as these get built out. So it could be a good idea to really understand, let's say again, this facility starts checking all your boxes on the front end, and you start diving into due diligence. Can you get a heat map when you get that rent roll and the tenant information? Can you look at the heat map and see where these tenants are located? Is there any information essentially that you can garner and just better understand what the supply and demand for those unit types are going to look like? Again, you're going to want to talk to the city and look at any future developments going on any deal that you're looking at, and make sure that, you don't go in and buy this, amazing boat and RV storage opportunity only to find out that, there's somebody that just got something permitted last week, and in 6 months, you're going to have 8 months, 12 months, whatever, you're going to have another huge, boat and RV covered parking competitor a mile down the road. That's stuff that you've really got to make sure that you get a pulse on and can plan for, immediately. Whether that's like figuring out a business plan to work through that, or it's totally like dipping out of the opportunity entirely.
I think too, when you're looking at the map overview, like if you zoom out a little more to the south, there's some water. And so like again, boat and RV, like it's a different type of customer than just storing their stuff. Like there's a recreational purpose for that. And so like in that aspect of the location, like I don't necessarily love that it's a bit out of the way. Like it's not, if there's a competitor on that main road heading towards the water, like they might have an advantage to you in that regard. And so then it's like, if there's boat and RV on a more direct way to the water, I would want to really understand what their pricing is, knowing that you may not be able to charge the same exact price that they're charging. And again, you might not need to be top of market to have this be a facility that makes financial sense, but understanding what the rates are, why people are using storage or boat and RV in that area. Because if it's boat and RV, it's one reason. If you're in New York City and they're using 5x5 climate control, that's a whole different reason. And they're in Boise and they're using big 10x30 non-climate control storage units. Like why are the people in the area utilizing self-storage? And understanding that is one, you're gonna identify that based on looking at the map and seeing some of that demographic info, but then also tying that back to the unit mix breakdown that Connor was talking about. And so like, we'll just take this one, it's 24% occupied. Maybe there's one unit type that is actually doing pretty well and all the other vacancy is in a different unit type. And so like you can see that a lot when in the traditional storage side, you have your 10 by 20s are filling up great, just a random example, but your 5 by 5s, you have 100 of them and they're all vacant or they're 90% vacant. And it's like you can't push that because there's no demand for that. And so understanding when you're looking at this, knowing what is the play here per each unit type, because it's really hard to go in and fix those things. Like Connor talked about, like you could take down a covered parking to build storage, but like now you're getting into more expenses, and is that going to be worth it for you to do? And it could be, but it's you have to really understand these things before you get into the deal, because once you're in it, you can't control that demand.
That's why it's so important to invest in and start in these areas where you're familiar. You're familiar with the utilization. If I was familiar with this area, I could be like, oh yeah, no, everybody's coming from this highway over in this area. And, this is like a 2-second drive out of the way to get a boat. And then you're, 10 minutes down to the lake. Like if I had that like reference and understood what that all looked like, I'm so much better off than having no idea, how people are utilizing, the area and traveling to and from these recreational places and that utilization in general. So, I mean, another one, I mean, we had Marcus and Millichap. They've got listings all over the country. I'm probably looking at like 50 or 60 listings right now all over the country that they've got.
And this is a national brokerage firm, like all commercial real estate, major institution. So like they do this all day long.
Yeah, no, exactly. So all kinds of amazing opportunities for you guys. But just to break things down, let's kind of recap, simply put, you're going to want to look at areas first and foremost. You want to get your buy box. Let's start there. Buy box, let's figure out what that looks like. You're going to want to tie in all of those things we talked about into your buy box. And as far as what kind of storage facility asset you're wanting, potential purchase price that you're looking for, or amount that you're able to invest, the business plan that you intend to execute on. Is it, are you looking for stabilized? Are you looking for value add? Like what exactly are you looking for when it comes to self-storage? After you're doing those things, you're sending that information to brokers. You're going to platforms like the ones we looked at today. You're connecting with those brokers, giving them your buy box, and then also going out on your own and looking at these opportunities in these areas that you're comfortable with and that you're familiar with, and going that direction. You're going through each of these listings. Just go through and take notes. Do your high-level analysis. Do your competitor analysis. Look at the overall competition in that market, and then really niche down into your like competitors. See what kind of rates they're charging, what kind of promotions they're doing. Like what exactly are they doing, and could you do something better or different that will differentiate you a little bit? Or is the facility that you're looking at in a position where you could immediately just come in and raise rates to one of your other like competitors because they're charging $120 for a 10 by 10 versus 100? Like that's a possibility there. And confirming demand is huge. You're going to want to do your secret shopping, right? You're going to want to call and talk to managers and owners and all that kind of stuff and just secret shop. Talk about needing storage in the area, getting a good feel on what's in demand and what's not. To George's point, identifying where the occupancies are and where the vacancies are of specific unit types. It's not just overall specific unit types. When you're looking at these markets, like what we were just checking out, we're looking at what's happening in and around the facility. We're checking out those photos. We're looking at maps and trying to get a grasp of what the utilization looks like, what the overall market looks like. Dive into the economic drivers as well. Like look at the employment. What do the employers look like in that area? What do the demographics look like in that area? What's the median household income? Is there a lot of expendable income or not? Like all of these just different things that are going to help guide you in a way to say like, yes, there's demand for this unit type of this facility that I'm looking at. And here are my simple value add. Here's my value add strategy. I'm going to go in, I'm going to pave the facility because my like competitors are paved. or I'm going to go in and I'm just going to add some fencing and cameras and lighting for added security, because security is super important to folks and it's a pretty low CapEx expense comparative to other things. Those are just kind of like top of mind, like brain dump. That's kind of where I would begin.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hammered it home really well. I think the last thing I would really just say is don't expect to just like absorb all of this at once. Like get your reps in, practice. You might find on one facility you have to spend way more time looking at a certain aspect of this, and then like you might be in a high competition market where you have to the competitor tracking takes a lot because you're looking at extra space, public storage, dealing with REITs, or you look at another area where there's 3 facilities in town. And so like you can look at 10 different facilities and the experience is different for all of them. And so I hope you guys learned a ton on this episode, but you're going to learn even more by going and watching this, pausing it, going and doing something of this yourself and getting your reps in. It's like that's really the hope for this, because we can talk on this and we hope that we provide a ton of value here, but you going and doing this yourself and seeing how every facility is really different from one another, you're going to start to get better and better. And these are things we work on with our community members all the time is, get your reps in, like what, like if it takes you 5 hours to underwrite a deal, it will eventually take you 1 hour and then it'll take you 15 minutes and you'll get better and better and better. So I think you covered it all on your, recap, Connor.
Sweet, man. No, I think I'm really hoping this helps give folks a good starting point, because it can be so overwhelming, right? When you're looking at all these listings and looking at all these things, it's like, dude, I don't even know where to start. The fact of the matter is, you're here, you're listening to the episode, like you're started. You got to go step by step. You can't put the cart before the horse. There is a process to these things, and yeah, the process will get more smooth as you go. But just understand it takes a little bit of time, takes some getting familiar with, but off the cuff, you're going to start identifying like opportunities and what works for you and what doesn't more and more quickly. And now hopefully this helps all you guys out there in just getting kicked off, because there's so much opportunity in the self-storage world, and love that all you guys are here listening to this stuff and wanting to get into the industry. It's an amazing time to get in, and just so much opportunity for folks out there right now.
Yeah, and if you guys are feeling overwhelmed, remember at the end of the day, they're metal boxes. We're not building rocket ships. You don't need a PhD. Like they're just a place for people to store their stuff. So yes, there's a lot to go through, but have perspective on that we're dealing with just sheets of metal storing people's stuff at the same time. So
Yeah, no, if you could leave today with anything, like just confirm demand. Like just
yeah,
confirm demand is strong in the markets that you're looking in for those specific unit types and utilizations that, your prospect facility has.
yeah.
You can mess up a lot of things, but like demand is one of those things you just cannot mess up on. All right, with that, hey, thanks everybody. George, great to see you. We'll catch everybody next time.